Hello again, YouTube. This is Jodas Walsh, or at Dr. Jodas Walsh, also known as at 11 and City of. Didn't plan to have a second part for the Prince Bishop, but got to the 15-minute mark on the first video, and it was a case of I still had a lot to talk about. So yeah, this is the second part of looking at my main tanker in City of, the Prince Bishop. I'm still on the mission to retrieve Hero 1's letter from the time capsule left. I'm not going to get too into the lore because we'll be forever, really speaking. I believe, I'm hoping wikis are still going to be made available, City of which will obviously talk about missions and lore and whatnot, but yeah. Actually, the main reason for having this mission was, even though I already had the cape, as you can see, traditionally you actually had to earn the cape at level 20 in the game, and you got it by doing this mission, but then they became essentially widely available from the start if you wanted, but I somehow ended up with this mission. I was actually wanting to use the previous mission where you're at Hero 1's memorial for essentially just a small part of, I was actually wanting to do trailers of my characters, essentially, but talking with voice actors and, you know, essentially in character, almost essentially like, you know, movie trailers almost. That was the concept, but put it off for so long, and now I'm paying the price. I'm not going to have a chance to do it, obviously, with the game shooting November 30th, so all I can do is just record the video, so might as well finish off the mission finally and get out of the road anyway. But what I wanted to, what I was talking previously was the IO system. So I didn't really get into the IO system, you know, straight away when it came out with issue 9, which was Breakthrough. Wasn't until you know, I met up with my current sort of like City Hero friends, probably back 2009ish, really, that was starting to get more in the RP scene and whatnot, and doing stuff with the character. And then you had at CV to Commander Beat and a few of the basics. I mean, your character's build's totally wrong. It says, well, I've managed so far, it seems to work, I've getting to 50. So, but yeah, you're missing this, this and this. I was terrible for building for concept rather than actual, you know, proper, you know, viable builds. So they sort of corrected us on that point. But Beat also, well, it was actually someone else that introduced me to the concept of IOs, but it was Beat that supplied the numbers, used the mids planner to actually come up with the numbers to which to really, you know, push a character's boundaries, either to short weaknesses or just to simply make, you know, characters ridiculous. And Bishop is one of my most ridiculous characters, because tankers are already naturally strong. They're already meant to just be, you know, in the middle of the fight, but there's still chances that they get knocked down. But Bishop is literally unkillable. It's just the numbers. I'm not going to break down the numbers because I'm, you know, too busy, you know, fighting and whatnot. But yeah, he literally became the unkillable tank, especially once the Incarnate stuff came out. There was only the Incarnate trials where essentially he would be put down, but that's because the Incarnate trials had gimmicks with, you know, instant death and unresistible, you know, damage and whatnot. So Bishop was the one. Any sort of like major change to the IO setup that would be refined or changed or whatnot, or if Beat would actually number crunch and get even more out of the character, Bishop was the one that I always, you know, went to first. To you know, to work on, and it would be the same with the Incarnates. Actually, whenever new Incarnate stuff came out, Bishop was the one I would deal with first, because he was always so sought after in teams, as the tanker essentially. So the concept of the tanker was traditionally hero side, although obviously it became available to villains as well. But the idea is, yeah, they would basically get into a mob, soak up the damage. It essentially was the flip of the Scrapper. The Scrapper was high damage but decent survivability, and the tank was the other way around. Extreme survivability and only so-so damage. I try and mitigate the damage on Bishop with the fact that Super Strength had something called Rage, which is this one here, which allowed you to you know, do a little bit more damage than normal. And I went down incarnate routes, which allowed for extra damage in the alpha and hybrid slots. But essentially the idea is they weren't there to do massive damage. They would do respectable damage, but otherwise getting them up. But what I really liked about tankers in City of, in compared to tankers that I've tried to play in, say, Champions Online, sorry, or I'm at the moment got a couple of tanks going on Star Wars: The Old Republic, both on the Republic and Republican Empire side, and the impression I get really with other games where they've got like the tanker role, that it just seems to be an overly convoluted way to actually get things done. I mean, it's not that I'm wanting games to be massively dumb. I'm not really one for, just press A to win essentially and whatnot. Because otherwise, where is the challenge? Where is the the need to push yourself or do whatever in a game, really. If it was just a simple case of just press the button and you win, well, you'd just get boring real fast. So it's not that I looked for anything that was massively easy street, but I got very, very frustrated with aggro management, which is the key for tanking. That the idea is the enemies are looking towards you and nothing else. But it just seems to be overly convoluted. You've got to keep moving around, and there's only a limited number of powers to actually get the attention and whatnot. In City of, it was fairly nice and simple. Whether you want to make the argument it was too simple or not, I don't think so. I think it was just a nice setup. The tankers had a natural inherent power where, by virtue of attacking, it was called Gauntlet. You couldn't actually increase any of its stats and whatnot. It was just there in the background. By virtue of just simply attacking enemies, they would be drawn towards you. Most of the defense auras as well had elements where they would cause the enemies to essentially look towards the tanker. But you also had Taunt, which was still a power you could choose not to take if you wanted to. But I mean, essentially, if you were looking to build a tanker, you would usually take it. And very quick recharge most of the time, and you just kept spamming that, and it just constantly made the enemies look towards you. So pressing Taunt, by virtue of attacking, the enemies were naturally drawn towards you, and it just made tanking so simple. I mean, if you failed as a tank and the team wiped, then you literally were horrible at playing the game essentially. So fail as a tank. It was possible. I've seen it plenty of time. I've seen some horrible tankers, but otherwise, the idea is, as long as you had Taunt and as long as you dived into a mob, you were good to go. They would just look towards you. You didn't need to do anything special or strenuous or anything really to really tank at all. You could just simply dive in. By virtue of just being there, the enemies would be drawn towards you, and that would be obviously the whole point. So yeah, I kind of hope that other games that offer the tanker role essentially look at this and just think, right, okay, there isn't a need to make it so overly complicated. If we're going to say we are a tanker, then that's it. You should be able to just simply go into a mob and they'll be naturally drawn towards you. Have a taunt power, obviously, just to ensure that you keep the aggro and whatnot. I mean, that's the thing, you still have to attack. I mean, you couldn't literally just stand there and expect them to just stay on you. But yeah, it was a case, I can just dive in with Bishop, start using the foot stomp, the ground pound, and it was enough just to, have enemies look towards us, and that's it. Everyone survived, and I survived just simply because it was built as a very strong tank. I'm bringing up the map because I'm trying to go to somewhere specific here. and that was it. So that's why I prefer tankers in City of, in compared to other tanking roles, really. So I'm hoping this is thought about in another ones here. So I'm just coming over to this quick little island here, Tempest Quay. A load of these giant monsters, just to basically prove, like, yeah, okay, he's an army of them. You normally don't try and take these down, at least if you're in a team. And I'm not really going to do enough damage to these to take them down at all. It's just, tankers just don't do enough damage to do so at all. So, but I can just stand here, and there's 3 giant monsters, and it's like, what are they doing? Nothing. Nothing at all. That's just how strong they are. Okay, a few red numbers there, but green bar, did it move? Hardly. Not really. And it recharged just as quickly, so... yeah, so that is the result of making use of the IO system. Making a character even stronger than what they can be with normal enhancements, plus with the incarnate system as well, just to the ridiculous level. So survivable. That is essentially what the tankers are. They were, yeah, the inspiration. Superman inspired. So another character I must daily playing, especially in this game, super strength. I mean, in comparison to say DC and Champions, obviously with super strength there, you've got the ability to actually pick up large objects like vehicles and whatnot, which this game never had. Would have been cool if it did. But I really like super strength in this game. I really like willpower. I've actually got more willpower characters than most, for most of the archetypes I've gone for. The shield defense type is willpower. It's just a very versatile click and forget sort of power type, actually. But yeah, Bishop was probably my most played character after 11. Second main, if you want to call it that, essentially. Very popular amongst my friends to team with. And yeah, just was very much great to play with, and love that pose. This game had some really nice stance poses and whatnot. So and when actually, while I've got a little bit of time left as well, one little caveat. No, not that. I want costume. So obviously the game supplied multiple costumes, so there was like civilian. That was the original costume, like pretty much with all briefs and whatnot. But with the character redesign of Superman with the new 52, I've gone for something that's akin to him. The sort of like reporter, although he's a bank manager in the case of the Prince Bishop. But yeah, just a little thing. Yeah. Statesman costume, yeah. Not exactly like Statesman, but yeah, did it as a laugh. He actually gave the helmet as a reward for staying with the game when I think the Old Republic had actually come out, essentially, so they gave the Statesman helmet away. Obviously they killed him out of the game at some point, but yeah, that made that just as a bit of a laugh. So there we go. So reaching to the end of the 15 minutes. So that's a 2-parter on my main tank, the Prince Bishop. So yeah, stay tuned. More characters to come. See you in a bit.